Good evening. I'm Betty Sawyer, and I'm running for House District 10. And it's heartbreaking that we've lost Lou Shirley. However, I intend to continue her legacy as a fierce protector of education and women. Her issues are my issues. I will vote as if Lou is whispering in my ear and continue to stand firm to do what's right. I'm happy to see so many of us willing to put our name on the line and serve in this capacity. I served under Governor Herbert on a number of committees as well as commissions, including the Utah Board of Juvenile Justice, and I will continue to work in that capacity with Governor Cox. I've been doing the work for education, health, and equity for over 40 years now. I've been recently involved with COVID relief and assistance, testing, pushing the narrative on the vaccine so that our people can be safe and get back to their normal activities. I have already have access to a lot of legislators from past work that I do. I've also worked with representatives to get the Juneteenth holiday bill passed, as well as other policies in juvenile justice and health. I don't have to start from ground zero. I'll be ready to hit the ground running on day one. When the seat is up for re-election, I think it's important to know that we all know we can't afford to lose it. And I will do all I can to maintain this as a blue seat. I've been involved with elections in the past, and in my current work with Project Success, our nonprofit, I raise about $120,000 a year to do the work that we do in health, education, and cultural arts, and have a donor base in place and will continue to build upon that to keep this seat blue. I'm also a candidate because I have these existing relationships and I've been doing the work. I haven't been as involved on day-to-day party work because I've been in the street working with health and education. We've done over 10 test sites just in our local community for COVID-19. I've given out over $25,000 to help people with rental assistance and utility assistance and food, and that's a big issue in our community. And so I hope to be that candidate. I need your vote and your support, and together we can really continue to make a difference and again contribute and continue that legacy that was left by our friend, our mentor, our trailblazer, Lou Shirley. Thank you.
And I will ask the first question. So the first question that I have for each of you is, do you have the position, a job, or are you in a position where you would be able to fulfill the role necessary to be an effective legislator in the 10th district?
Yes, I'm be a full-time legislator. I'm committed to keeping the seat blue and raising the money year-round to make that happen. I'm retiring from Weber State University and excited to put 100% behind this position.
And this was a question that was asked by one delegate. Should the Utah House seek to censure or otherwise punish state senators, House representatives, or other state elected officials who support false allegations of voter fraud in the recent presidential election?
I would say yes as well. You know, these are constitutional issues that we're talking about, and the ability to speak truth to power and distinguish between truth and untruth is critical to the work that we have before us.
Now that we've got your microphone working, why don't you take it, Kate?
All right, thank you, Jeff. Here's my question to the candidates. Are you have neither the experience nor the relationships that Lou developed, and some of you have talked about that. No one has those things at this point. How can you be a relevant, effective representative in a one-party dominated House? Thank you.
First of all, my goal coming in as a freshman legislator would be to make sure that every bill, every piece of legislation was bipartisan, was sponsored bipartisanly. I think that's critical. My first role in state government was being appointed by Governor Norm Bangerter and then be reappointed by Governor Leavitt, and continuing my work, working with legislators on both sides and governors to make sure that we build coalitions. Lou was a coalition builder. I'm a coalition builder. Everything that I do in the community has to be based on coalition. You cannot do this work by yourself. And one of my strengths is being able to speak clearly with truth and trust about the values that we all hold so dear to us. Those are common values in our county. There are common values in our party and common values in our state. Most recently, I had the opportunity to work with Representative Sandra Hollins when she was working on the coalition to abolish slavery from the Constitution. When I went out to get the Juneteenth holiday bill signed, passed in our state, it was important that I get a Republican representative as well as a Democrat to sponsor that for us. And we were able to get Senator Alvin Slaughter in the Republican Party and Sandra Adams, representative on the Democratic side, to co-sponsor that bill. And it passed overwhelmingly the first time. So that bipartisan work is critical to our success. And like I said, for over 45 years, that's what I've done. You know, news interviews over and over. I do have high name recognition because I have been out in the community on a state level and local level doing the work, whether it's tobacco and health policy, vaping, Tobacco 21. I'm a part of the state health department tobacco prevention and control initiative, and have been doing that. And we look at our sharp data, what's happening with our public school students around vaping and tobacco use. We have work to do, and I've been doing that work.
If you are elected to represent Weber County House District 10, what are the top 3 issues you'll pursue and address?
I would chime in and agree that COVID is still number one, and it has an impact on so many other areas, not just in terms of the health aspect of it. And we've been doing the testing, and now our push is to get everybody vaccinated so that our economy can return to the way it needs to return, that small businesses can thrive again and get back up and running. And then our education for our children have been disrupted by COVID. You know, we've had hybrid, we've had online, and we've had digital divides, and making sure that our students are connected. I've had the pleasure of working with monthly. I meet with all of our superintendents from Northern Utah, Davis, Weber, and Ogden School district superintendents, so that we know what's going on, so that the coalitions that we have in the community, as well as the work that we're doing at Weber State and access and diversity for all students, we can work together in harmony so that we're on the same page and working on these issues succinctly. And one of the other things with education is that gender wage gap. I serve on the U.S. Commission, Civil Rights Commission, our state advisory committee, and we recently finalized our gender wage gap report. And we know that for a lot of reasons, cultural and otherwise, Utah wages have fallen behind for women. And we know that that's not acceptable, because the cost of living for us is the same as everybody else. Currently, we rank 50th in the nation in terms of gender pay equity. And when we look at education, the majority of our public school educators are women. And so we have to work on those particular issues. I've been in conversation, our team has, with Brad Assay with the teachers union, so that we can talk to them and find out what teachers want and need, and do that work together to make sure that we're addressing those things. Voices for children. We talked about full day kindergarten, things of that nature, to make sure that we mitigate these achievement gaps that impact our communities, that impact our families. We know that Lou was all about education. She was all about women. And I will continue to work on the coalitions that I've already built, legislation that I've already been a part of, committees and commissions that I'm already working in today and have worked on for, like I said, over 40 years. to keep this work moving in the right direction. So we are already connected. We're going to continue to build on those connections, but education, health, gender wage gap, and all of those things are things that'll be on my agenda day one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. All right, guys. So I have something that I think is kind of an interesting question from a delegate. And this question was submitted before tonight's meeting. And I think that, Betty, if you don't mind, we'll start with you on this question. Lou fought an uphill battle to see many meaningful ethics reforms in the legislature. What specific issues would you bring forth to continue her anti-corruption efforts? And why don't you just limit this to maybe one or two things that you would like to see happen in the legislature to reduce corruption in Utah state government?
Thank you. I think one of the things, and in talking to some of our delegates this past week, is transparency. When we look at the Rules Committee and our caucus system, it flies in the face of transparency. So many things die before they even get the light of day, and the people and the voters get to speak on them, and other legislators get to hear that and share their concerns. And so I think transparency, working on policies that would mandate certain levels of transparency, that we move away from that Rules Committee format where they can thumbs up or thumbs down anything without us knowing what's going on at all. And then those closed caucuses, for sure. I know our former legislator, Ed Allen, worked on those for many of years while he was in office. And like Lou, those are some things that we have to continue to push as Democrats. Being that minority in our state legislature, we cannot afford to let those systems continue to move forward as they are, or our successes will always be limited. Our effectiveness in moving the needle toward those democratic platforms that we believe in, that we fight for, that we try to honor every day will come about. Again, as I shared, the coalitions that I've been able to build, I think we can talk to some of our Republican legislators and let them know when we talk about healing and all of those things. You don't get to heal until you stop and recognize you have a problem. And then we can move on from there. Just recently, I participated in the governor's, the compact on racial equity and diversity and inclusion. And the tenets within that are things that it's important for us to turn that back to our Republican legislators and say, hey, you signed on to this. And what does this mean to you? It's no more than a piece of paper. We cannot let those kind of documents and statements be reduced to paper. They have to be living and active documents, and we have to hold them accountable to living those things and including those values and the policies and practices that go on every day in our state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betty, any thoughts on education and labor, as ripping off what Daniel mentioned?
Definitely. I will always support unions. I come from a working class family, and if it weren't for unions, I wouldn't be where I was today. My father was a factory worker, and so it's extremely important to us, and it's part of the coalitions that I'm a part of. We work with unions every day, and that's a part of our democratic platform as well. They brought us to this point. Our team has been in conversation with Jeff Worthington with the AFL-CIO. We've been talking with our teachers union and our educators, and we know that unions support living wages, fair wages. They support healthcare benefits, and so many the folk through this pandemic, we talked about essential workers, and so many of those essential workers are not paid a fair wage. So many of those essential workers do not have health insurance. So many, and that's so unfair to demand that they be there on that front line with a threat of losing their job if they show up, if they call in, if they have to quarantine themselves or anything. Many continue to go to work because they would lose their job. because they have no protection. And so unions protect workers, they protect us, living wages, health care, collective bargaining, all of those things that everyone should have an opportunity to have so that we can live in this community with housing that we need to have, decent and affordable housing, and come together because of this work and because of the work of our unions. Aside from that, with raising money and doing all those kinds of things, that's what we do. And they've helped us along this way with that. So I support unions. They're doing a great job in keeping the salaries that we have that are competitive are because of them. And like I said, our team has been talking to Jeff Worthington, the president of the AFL-CIO, to make sure that we are working with them to bring about those changes that need to take place in our state.
Thank you.
I want to ask everyone this question, and please limit yourself to about 30 seconds. We're at a point now where I have to cut you off, so I will just have to be mean, and I'm sorry in advance. But what is your strategy going to be to win what is going to amount to a very, very tough general election in 2022? Lou Shurtleff won this seat this time by 2 points. It was not a blowout. So what is it that you're going to do, and what is your strategy to make sure that this seat stays in Democratic hands in 2022?
I would say the same. We start from day one preparing for the next election and raising that money. I have raised money. Every year I raise over $125,000 to support the projects that I work on a regular basis. And we know that elections is about name recognition and it's about money. Lou had name recognition and people gave her the funding to support that candidacy. I have broad name recognition, not just in our county, but across the state. And I will use that to bring those resources to the campaign. This will be my full-time job, getting out there. And all of these wonderful people that are on the call tonight with us, I think all of us are going to group together and work together to make this happen. Whoever comes out victorious, we will work together to make sure we keep the seat blue and maybe pick up a couple of others in the process.
Thank you, Betty. Okay, thank you very much. Now for the fun part. These are one-word answers, two-word answers. We don't need an explanation. Just provide a really quick one. The first question that I have for each of you is, what is your favorite Weber County restaurant? Betty.
I'm going to go with University Broiler.
Okay.
All right, my question is, what is your favorite book? Try not to overthink it. Betty Sawyer, what is your favorite book?
Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, a beautiful letter to his son about race and those issues that we're facing today.
Thank you.
We will now have closing statements. We will honor the 2 minutes that we're going to give each of you, but I will say you can speak for less time if you would like to. Betty?
I'd like to thank everyone again that has stayed on to this call, that have joined in. This is so important, but because of the limited time, you really haven't gotten to know us all. And I look forward to getting to know you and you getting to know me. I reached out to each of you with either phone calls or emails and left you how to get in touch with me. And in the few conversations that I've had, I've learned so much. And I want to continue that dialogue, whether it's via Zoom or a telephone call, so that I can hear what you feel is most important, because this is the work that we have to do together. I've showed that I'm a coalition builder. I've spent over 40 years building coalitions and working across lines. I worked on a local level as well as a state level and nationally as well. But this race is about our people and about those things that are priorities to us. I'm able to raise money, and we'll start doing that immediately because we know we have to keep this a blue seat in our area. I want to get to know you. Education is my priority. like it was with Lou, women's issues and that gender wage gap is important to me. Having livable wages, affordable housing, being able to pay people what they're worth, because that is so important. And so together, I will be a full-time legislator working for you, with you, and on behalf of you. If this past few months haven't told us anything, when I look at the work that Stacey Abrams was able to do, she was single focused on the long game. And I think that's something that we have to do to move forward, to be able to stay connected, to build on the coalitions and relationships that we already have, speak truth to power, be accountable and responsive to those we are entrusted to represent. And I ask for your vote. I ask for your vote. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Betty. Delegates, please come prepared to vote on Saturday, January 16th, 10 a.m. We will hold a Zoom meeting, go over the balloting process, but remember, candidates will not have an opportunity to speak at the event. The rule doesn't allow us to do that. So candidates, you should be reaching out. Sounds like a lot of you are. Reach out to the delegates. Delegates, it's your job to answer the phone for these folks. They're doing their work. You've got to do yours. Pick up the phone, respond to the emails. It's particularly hard to campaign right now with the pandemic. Give the candidates a chance to talk to you and tell them a little bit about themselves and their story. And then ask your questions and come prepared on Saturday. With that, I really appreciate everybody taking the time. I'm grateful for all of you guys as candidates. Thank you so much for your hard work and for your efforts. Kate, again, thank you. And on behalf of the Democratic Party, I wish every single one of you the best of luck. And we'll see you all on Saturday.